This episode of the Sloopcast is brought to you by the Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. The Mad Canadian Barbecue Company is an Ohio-based company where we usually say our seasoning would take your barbecue from good to great. So let's look over some of the seasonings that he has, shall we?
Yes.
First up here, the savory. Savory is the exact seasoning that the Mad Canadian himself uses on his pulled pork. It's a salty, savory mix that is sure to be a favorite in your next barbecue. The Brits Blend. It's a mix of a numerous of spices that goes well with so many different meals that you could make.
Southwest.
Mrs. Mad Canadian uses that one for her chili. It's really good, especially with fall coming around the corner here.
Chilly weather.
Yes. Looking forward to it. And also the two-border. We've talked about the two-border before. It's a really, really good mix of maple sugar, red pepper flakes. It's just good on a numerous of different meals. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. Goes with a number of different things. Be sure to check out those and other great seasonings over at the MadCanadianBBQ.com. Be sure to use the promo code SloopCast10 at checkout for 10% off. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where they have your butt covered.
This is where we talk to our YouTube friends. Hi, YouTube friends. This is where we'd normally be playing our Black Keys intro song, but YouTube, they're not very fun over in the YouTube land. So.
Nope.
The YouTube friends and Discord friends are the same friends. I mean, the Discord friends are the more exclusive, of course, but you know how it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here we go. We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing pretty well over here, all things considered. How are you, Jared?
Still trying to deal with the idea that there's not going to be any Ohio State football this fall. That there may or may not be football in January, and having no idea what that would look like even if there were football. Like, or if there is football, what does it look like? So, none of it is good. I'm going to go ahead and just say none of it's good. And that all stinks. I do, in fact, have video brawls. Maybe hop out of the channel and hop back into the channel. Do something like that. But it's on. It's always me, though, with the video issues. And I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway. So we do have a lot to get to today. It's going to not be the most fun episode because we're essentially going to be talking about how we need to fire Kevin Warren, and it's just been a complete disaster on the Big Ten side.
We've talked on years past about how bad of a job Ohio State has done in the PR stand. Well, now it's the conference as a whole now. It's just a big PR disaster.
Beyond, though. Absolutely beyond. It's been a complete disaster for the Big Ten. Just from the bottom, or from the top down. We can have a discussion about whether there should be football or yet this fall. That to me is not separate, but to the side.
Mm-hmm.
I think the issue is you know what? We're going to get into all of that. We do have a piece of good news. Let's do the good news first. Then we're going to talk about the dysfunctional Big Ten. So the piece of good news is that Ohio State picks up another commitment in their 2022 class. We've talked a lot about Deshaun McCullough in recent maybe not the past couple weeks, but we are hitting the recruit. We're about to get a dog cameo. Everyone meet Apollo. He is very cuddly today. If you want to see my dog, you have to check out the YouTube channel. That's just reality. Sorry, audio listeners. Deshaun McCullough is, like I said, a really good linebacker from Kansas. He's not necessarily really from Kansas. He has a lot of Ohio roots. His dad is a employee of the Kansas City Chiefs, but his brother plays for Miami of Ohio. His dad played for Miami of Ohio. It's an Ohio-rooted family that is living in Kansas right now because that's where the Kansas City Chiefs are, sort of. They're in Missouri. It's right across the river. It's fine. Don't get caught up on the details. Point is, this is now the third big-time athletic linebacker that Ohio State's pulled down in this class alone. A lot of people might be more familiar with Gabe Powers, as he is from Marysville, Ohio. If you don't know, that's just a suburb outside of Columbus. So
don't forget about C.J. Dix out of Dayton, Ohio. More specific, Archbishop Alter.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 2022 class is off to a really nice start. Ohio State has taken some L's as far as some of their quarterback prospects that they were looking at for the 2022 class, but we don't have to really count them as L's quite yet. It's insanely early in the recruiting class. So
looking at those linebackers, again, very early in the recruiting cycle though, but all three there, Powers, McCullough, and Hicks, top 71.
Yeah.
Not top 71 in their position, it's overall.
Yeah.
Overall.
Yeah, so Ohio State already killing it in the linebacker. So a lot of people were worried. I think Ohio State only currently has one, and I think it's like 1.5, because one of them is an athlete's. Yeah, 1.5 in the
just half.
Just half.
All four others: Marysville, Dayton, Westchester.
Oh no. What I was saying is in the 2021 class, Ohio State has 1.5 linebackers currently committed to that class. So a lot of people were worried about, what's Ohio State going to do with their linebackers? And of course you have a new linebackers coach in, and so everyone starts hitting maybe not the panic button, but the maybe more of a concern button, what's he doing? Do we have a linebacker coach that can't recruit? What's going on? And I think I know we've said it, they're not going to do a lot of linebackers in 2021. They're going to focus a lot on the defensive backs in 2021. We'll take care of the linebackers in 2022, and that's obviously coming into fruition here. It's another really great recruiting class start. Ohio State's doing a really good job. They have lost some momentum on the 2021 side, and that clear number one class isn't quite as clear because you lose defensive end, which I'm not super worried about.
Mm-hmm. But as we said before,
Alabama's on a complete tear right now. So Alabama's really closed that gap.
Mm-hmm. And I'll really emphasize what we've said for months now. Yeah. Even still today, even though Alabama is less than 2 points away from Ohio State for the crown for the 2021 recruiting class. If Ohio State gets JTT and Emeka, it's a done deal. I don't see how Alabama would be able to take the number one when Ohio State would potentially be able to add 2 in the top 7 with Emeka being number 7 there. I just don't see how Alabama would do that unless they're able to recruit a lot more than what they should be allowed to recruit.
Well, and we have rules now that we didn't have rules 10 years ago to help to prevent oversigning.
Yep.
Yeah, but also you have to keep an eye out for decommitments, which is what's hurt Ohio State. Not in a huge way, but yeah, because Ohio State's they lost a defensive end, their defensive end recruiting class is still great, and that's even before the consideration of adding JTT out of Washington, and the wide receivers are even really great, even without adding Emeka Egbuka, which I still feel like Ohio State's way more likely to. And there's, smoke about Oklahoma and smoke about Oregon, and there's a lot of stuff around Emeka Egbuka and JTT. I'm not going to say it's not realistic or that it's, all BS or anything like that, because there is truth to it. I'm not going to say that there isn't. But I also think that at a certain point, you have to, as someone who writes a website that relies on clicks, how many times can you write the story that Emeka Egbuka seems solid to Ohio State without, eventually you have to still talk about one of the top uncommitted players in the entire class. You have to talk about him. But you can't just keep saying, yeah, it seems like he's going to go to Ohio State. You have to start adding some intrigue. Oh, JTT, Oregon's a serious contender. They are. I'm not saying Ohio State's a 100% slam dunk. I'm not saying that. But I think JTT to Oregon is overstated, and it seems more impactful. It seems more urgent than it really is, just because that news is newer. But just because the news is newer doesn't mean it's more accurate or more urgent. It's just new. That's all. Yep. All right, Kyle. Let's get into the meat of the show. We have to just start talking about the dysfunction of the Big Ten. If you didn't listen to last week's episode, we didn't talk a lot about the season being canceled. And yes, I'm saying canceled, Kevin Warren. You cannot say Ohio State's not going to play football in this calendar year and be like, oh no, we postponed it. Postponed it's pushing it back a month. You cannot say, I'll tell you what, Kevin Warren, I'll give you this. I'm talking directly to you, Kevin Warren, and I'm going to do this all episode. You can, if you want to. Austin information just arrives, and he wants us to know. Screw Kevin Warren. Listen, Austin, I've been trying. The funny thing is, if you listen to the earlier seasons of the episode, we cursed a lot more than we do now. We've tried to level that off, but frankly, fuck Kevin Warren. I don't have any other way of saying that right now. Anyway, I'm talking directly to you, Kevin Warren. I completely lost what I was saying before. I lost my train of thought. Do you have any idea where I was going with any of that, Kyle? Nope. Ah, crap.
Well, you were talking about
postponing. That's what it was. I tell you what, Kevin Warren, I would give you the it's not canceled, it's postponed, if everyone plays football in January. If half of college football plays in like October through December, and the other half of college football plays in January to March, that's a canceled season. That's not a legitimate football season for anyone involved. Not for the people who played in 2020 and not for the people who played in 2021. That is not a legitimate football season.
Not to mention, too, of how many players are just going to be like, I'm not going to deal with it. And I'm not going to even try to bother trying to play. I'm going to get myself ready for the NFL draft. And at this case, whoever does decide to play, it's going to be pretty much like a JV version of the teams.
And I want to get into that a little bit more heavy a little bit later, as far as will everyone play, so on and so forth. Right. So I want to start by talking about the Big Ten parents most notably from Ohio State, Iowa, and in Illinois. Parents were there as well, going to the Big Ten offices to demonstrate. They were immediately met with police officers hired by the Big Ten and sort of claiming private property, and they got moved a block away from the Big Ten offices because the Big Ten continue to be cowards. Kevin Warren continues to be a coward. The entire Big Ten office continues to be cowardly. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to mince words on that. And then, but you know what? Regardless of where they were actually stationed, it still achieved what it was supposed to achieve because the media showed up to cover it. So what we essentially end up having is an impromptu press conference led mostly by Randy Wade, who, if you have not figured this out by now, is Shaun Wade's dad. I suddenly got really insecure that his name's not Randy. It's Randy, right? You know what? You figure that out. It is. Thank you, Austin. I don't know. If you guys have never just recorded a podcast live before, you have no idea sometimes what the crap is running through your head. Anyway, so you have Randy Wade, and he essentially gives an impromptu press conference in Chicago. And what is most striking to me about Randy Wade giving the press conference, number one, is that he, under no obligation, he is not employed by anyone or anything having to do with college football, with the Big Ten, with Ohio State. That's not his job. So under no imposed obligation, he stands in front of reporters. This is a man who is not media trained, who is not being paid to talk to reporters. This is just a concerned father. And he stands out in the outdoors of Chicago and talks to the media and then takes questions from the media. He reiterates, he said it on Twitter so many times, but it's different now because there are cameras on him and he's actually speaking. He reiterates that this is not about playing football at all cost. That's not what this is. Again, that's a line I'm going to reemphasize a few times on today's show. We are not mad at Kevin Warren for canceling football. That is not what's happening here. Canceling football might be the correct move. Okay? Mm-hmm. This is not play football at all costs. That's not what Randy Wade is saying. That is not what Kyle and I are saying. This is not us saying you must play football at all costs. May the consequences of COVID be damned. It's not what we're saying. It's not what Randy Wade is saying. What the issue here is the lack of transparency, the lack of communication, the lack of honesty that has come from the Big Ten offices. That's the issue here. And again, what strikes me is Randy Wade taking questions from reporters, speaking to reporters, taking all of this on himself as a volunteer. And where's Kevin Warren at?
He's sitting in his desk with pictures of him behind him.
Yeah. Where's Kevin Warren? Where are you? You've not spoken to the press except for Tuesday night, where you gave an incredibly short interview on the Big Ten Network. An interview...
pushing it too.
I'm sorry, say again, Kyle.
Interviewing is really pushing it too. I wouldn't even call that an interview. It's just him saying words.
Yeah.
Not addressing anything.
Yeah, and let's not pretend for a second, by the way, that the Big Ten doesn't own 49% of the Big Ten network. So it's not an honest interview. It's like if Kyle interviewed me. It's not a real interview. And then on top of that, for the couple of minutes he was on Big Ten Network, he evades every question asked. Evades every question asked. Does not answer anything with any substance. And the reporter doesn't push him, and like, is the reporter risking his job if he really holds Kevin Warren's feet to the fire on not answering the questions? How much time did the reporter actually have? I'm not putting that on him. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, but I don't want to get weighed down in that conversation. Fact of the matter is that Kevin Warren gave us like 2 minutes of zero substance. What are we supposed to do with that? Then he goes radio silent for 8 days. Nothing. The entire Big Ten is blowing up around him. Nebraska's talking about leaving. You have mixed messages coming from the Big Ten office and Ohio State about fall football, spring football, winter football. You have I forget who it was now. I think was it Brom? I forget. But you had like, oh, here's my plan for returning to college football. You have Ryan Day over here. He's announcing a completely different plan to return to college football. Was there even a vote of the presidents? Because we have this president over here saying there was no vote. And we have this president over here saying that there was a vote. Was there a vote? The message...
Or is this more of a big statement from Kevin Warren to all athletic directors, all presidents, to all the universities saying, hey, you're going to say what I'm telling you guys to say, and you're going to support my decision?
Maybe. I don't think he has the... Well, what a part of any of this makes you think that he would even have the wherewithal to communicate that down? Because nothing has been consistent from the Big Ten coaches, the Big Ten athletic directors, the Big Ten presidents. The message has been inconsistent. I would almost applaud him if the Big Ten had a solid talking point that was consistent across all the different phases, all the different universities, all the different levels. But that's not been the case.
You know what, too? And this is probably most likely the case why they really tried to come out and be one of the first ones to come out and say that they're canceling the season, is hope that everybody else jumps on board. Like, oh, yeah, look at the Big Ten. Let's follow suit with them. They're the leaders and legends and all that, too. But
unfortunately,
everything that you're saying here, too, they just dropped the ball, and then all the other conferences, and you're seeing it in just short videos, GIFs and all that out there, just making fun of the Big Ten right now. Big Ten conference right now is a laughing joke because of how it's being handled.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the leadership of the Big Ten is more legendary than it is factual right now. The Big Ten, who has always put themselves up on some sort of pedestal, I believe that they really thought that once they canceled football, that all the other conferences were just going to follow suit. I mean, the Pac-12 did, but who cares what the Pac-12 has to say about anything?
And I'll say this, if they were able to get one more, whether it was the ACC or the Big 12, if one of those other conferences followed suit, we'd be having a complete different conversation right now, because there's no way that there would be a quote-unquote season or a legit season if you would have just SEC and one other conference.
Well, and you have out of Omaha, I think this is incredibly interesting. What you have is coming out of Omaha from the Omaha World Herald by... I don't know how to pronounce this man's name. Isn't that just very Sloopcastian of us? It's Moos. So Moose? Moss? I don't know.
Sure. Moose.
Brawls says moose. I don't know if I trust him, but that's what he said. And Austin
cow noise
might just be. I don't know that there's a difference between the cow noise and what I just said, Austin. He says Ohio State's Gene Smith, Penn State's Sandy. Oh, too many names. The athletic directors from Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan pushed hardest for fall football, while Big Ten Commissioner Warren repeatedly preferred this spring. Apparently, let's see, he goes on to say that a Zoom meeting between all the parties did not happen, by which he means both the athletic directors and the presidents. When he said that there was a unanimous agreement among all conference athletic directors for keeping a season in the fall. So you really just need to go read this, because I don't want to read it verbatim to you right now. Point is that there was a lot of miscommunication, intentional or not, about the fact that what were the presidents saying, what were the athletic directors saying, and why did Kevin Warren keep those parties separate, and why there is subtly. He was talking about my moose versus moose. See, yeah, there's a subtle difference there. Why were you keeping these meetings separate? So now we start to understand why that there's so much miscommunication and so many different narratives, and potentially why there were so many bad reports. We had a lot of bad reporting coming out of the Big Ten, larger Big Ten media sphere. Why? Well, these good reporters with normally good sources, why were there so many bad reports? Well, it seems like Nebraska didn't know what Michigan was doing and didn't know what Ohio State and Penn State were doing. There were athletic directors that didn't know what presidents were doing within the same freaking university. It's almost like they rushed into a decision when they could have just postponed the season for a month and just sort of said, oh, well, you know what the ACC and what the SEC are doing is better by starting in October. Let's just push things back a month. Let's get some meetings.
They had how many months?
All of them. They had all of the months. We've been in lockdown since March. It is now August. They just rushed into this decision. They didn't take the time to get everyone in the same meeting. There was not a sincere amount of communication happening within the universities, within the conferences. This is an entire rush job that the more news comes out, seems like it was being pushed by Kevin Warren. And one of my favorite, well, least favorite, however you choose to see it, things I have seen thus far was apparently Kevin Warren was surprised that he has received so much backlash for canceling the Big Ten football season. And yes, Kevin Warren, I will continue to say cancel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the bad thing, yeah, and I was just about to say that here, Brawley, is that a lot of people are really looking at just how he's saying one thing about canceling football for entire conference, but is okay for his son to play football in the SEC too.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because like his son is like I think a 4th-year college player. I think he's a redshirt junior if I am not mistaken. The kid's an adult.
How is that any different than the Big Ten conference with all the kids and everybody in there? I don't see a
because
difference.
Kevin Warren does have authority over what happens in the Big Ten, but Kevin Warren does not have authority of what his child does. And I'm starting to receive a lot of. I know this is an unpopular opinion. I know I'm getting it from Kyle right now. I had some people come at me on Twitter. I had some people come at me on the Buckeye Scoop message board for this opinion. And Austin and Brawls are coming at me on the Discord right now. I know it's an unpopular opinion. I don't want to turn Kevin Warren's kid into some sort of lightning rod simply because his dad is an asshole.
No, it shouldn't be directed towards his son. It's at Kevin Warren himself because he's saying one thing but isn't doing what he's saying in the other hand too.
But we have no idea.
Understand.
We have no idea what their relationship is like. What is his relationship like with his son? Maybe he calls up his son and says, "Hey, I don't want you playing football this year." And he might say, "Fuck you, Dad. You're an asshole and I don't like you." Or he might say, "Dad, I respect you, but I really need to do this." We have no idea what their relationship is like. Maybe he hates his dad.
He goes on there and says that he has the best interest of the parents making this decision. It's like, no, you're not listening to the parents. You're not listening to anybody. And obviously, it sounds like you're not listening to athletic directors of a conference that you're supposed to be administrating.
That's different. He's not listening to his athletic directors. He never had conversations with players. He never had conversation with parents. That's all egregious. I'm not defending any of that. I really just we can talk about how there should have been communication with players directly from the commissioner. There should have been communication with coaches directly from the commissioner, with parents, players directly from the commissioner. Those conversations should have happened. There should have been conversations that included presidents of the universities and the athletic directors of universities and the coaches of these football programs. All of that should have happened. And we can talk about all of that and how Kevin Warren has failed at all of that. But I want to leave his kid out of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think most people want to leave his kid out of it, but they use that as an example of the hypocrisy that he has, though. It's just mind-blowing that just you can't trust anything that he says at this point, or even
I am not
he's not really even saying anything in general.
I'm not defending Kevin Warren even one little bit. This is me defending his kid. Or at least maybe not even defending his kid, just trying to keep that topic of conversation aside. There's so many failures on Kevin Warren's part that I don't even think it's necessary to bring his kid into it. And I feel like there's a lot of people within the Big Ten media sphere who would be thrilled if his kid didn't get to play football this year. And that's effed up. That's two wrongs. The last I checked, don't make a right. I just want to leave his kid out of it. I think that's unfair. Not to Kevin Warren. Fuck Kevin Warren. To his son. I don't want to make him responsible for the fact that his dad is a dipshit.
Yeah.
They're discussing if this is my worst take of all time, I believe, in the Discord right now. But I think that they're thinking my Nick Vanette take is worse, and now there's conversations about your opinions on Mario Kart being worse. But that was a Discord conversation that we're not going to try to bring into the podcast. We're going to keep your terrible, terrible Mario Kart opinions off pod for right now, Kyle.
All right. But let's talk about some good takes. Some good takes from our friend, the Mad Canadian.
By the way, real quick, before we move on from that, I have, this is from Teddy Greenstein. He says the Big Ten Commissioner, Kevin Warren, told him that he did not think the decision to postpone football would be scrutinized as much as it has been. Quote, it was completely mishandled. It was botched. Kevin and I talked the other day and he agreed. Well, okay. At least he can acknowledge the fact that he's a giant fuck up. Now, take that the next step, Kevin Warren, and resign. You have done one thing. You have done one thing in your time as commissioner in the Big Ten. And you have failed at it meteorically. You have meteorically failed at it. Do everyone a favor and resign. Please proceed with the ad read now.
Mad Canadian. Well, if you missed out on his amazing 30% off, you still have a chance for 10% off of all orders. Use Slipcast10 at checkout for 10% off. Some great seasonings that he offers here. Talked about, I think we'll cover it again here. The Coffee and Q. I think we talk about that one every week. One of Jared's favorite. Coffee and Q has.
They're all one of my favorites.
They're all one of the favorites. I think there's somebody on YouTube that I enjoy watching, and he always says, my favorite. This is my favorite character. This is my favorite with everything. And I think that's you, Jared.
That sounds like me, yeah.
Everything. Every seasoning from the Mad Canadian, which, hello, Mad Canadian, is Jared's favorite here. So, what else, Jared? What else is your favorite here? Coffee and Q, and what else?
We already talked about the Brits blend. Have we talked about the curry yet? The curry steak?
Oh, that is one of my favorites.
It's also one of my favorites. Once again, they're all one of my favorites.
Yeah, curry steak. You put it on, obviously, your steak. You put it on hamburgers. It's a very, very versatile seasoning. You can't go wrong using it at all. The Discord, which we got a few people in our Discord listening in here. So why don't we bring up the Discord seasoning?
It's the Four Horsemen. The Four Horsemen in the Discord are cousins. In that the Four Horsemen has a saltier base while the Discord has a sweeter base, but they're both a spicy 4-pepper blend that will kick you in the tongue. I don't know why I stopped myself from cussing that time. Will kiss you. I said kiss that time, probably because I avoided one from the dog who was in my lap again. But will kick you in the teeth. Sure. Kick you in the teeth. It's a very spicy blend. Like I said, the Discord being with a sweeter base and the Four Horsemen being with a saltier base, but both of them with an incredibly potent 4-pepper blend.
Mm-hmm. Be sure to check out all the great seasonings over at themadcanadianbbq.com. Be sure to use the promo code SLOOPCAST10 for 10% off. Mad Canadian Barbecue Company, where they have your butt covered.
All right, Kyle. We did, after 8 days, finally hear from Kevin Warren. Now, hear might be the wrong word. Because as I talked about at the top of the show, he did not talk to reporters. He did not even stand in front of a camera in an empty room. Apollo, buddy, it's adorable, but it's too much. I'm going to have to ask you to get down and not take my headset with you. All right. Kyle, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read this letter. I'm going to read this letter in its entirety. This is from Kevin Warren. Like I said, he did not speak. He simply released an open letter. You know, the parents did an open letter. Why can't he do an open letter? Well, because you're paid to be responsible for these decisions, and part of that responsibility is talking to the media. That's why.
Here's the question. Did this actually come from him, or did somebody write it for him?
Oh, it was totally written by lawyers. 100%. That's why it took 8 days.
So it really isn't from him.
No, but it is, legally speaking. Brawls says the Buckeye Weekly breakdown of the letter was great. I did not hear that. I have to be careful listening to other people, and I love Tom and Tony, and it's one of the first Buckeye podcasts I go to when I do listen to someone else's podcast, but I do have to be careful, because if I listen to too many podcasts during the week, I end up just repeating what they say, and no one wants that. All right. He says, and feel free to jump in whenever you want on this, Kyle, because it's full of just turds. So when I step in a turd, make sure to let me know, okay?
Did a turd sandwich.
I write on this occasion to share with you additional information regarding the Big Ten's conference decision to postpone the 2020-21 fall sports season.
Canceled.
Yeah. First off, if we're calling it a fall season and it's not taking place in the fall, you canceled it.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on. We thoroughly understand and deeply value what sports mean to our student athletes, their families, our coaches, and our fans.
Did you talk to them?
Do you now? Because I don't believe that you thoroughly understand unless...
If you really did, you actually talk to them and not actually have police come and order them to go a block away from their Big Ten office.
You cannot...
If you really did there, you wouldn't have done that.
You cannot claim to thoroughly understand someone when you have not spoken to them. Furthermore, Kyle, I'm going to go back to that Teddy Greenstein quote. He says he thoroughly understood, right? He said he thoroughly understands? Okay. Warren told him he did not think the decision to postpone football would be scrutinized as much as it's been. Oh, so you thoroughly understand, yet when you cancel Big Ten football for the first time in, I don't know, like 130 years, you think that was just everyone's just going to say, okay. Big Ten football has been played through 2 world wars, the Spanish flu pandemic, and a bunch of hurricanes. We've played through a bunch of different hurricanes.
Heck, it was just 2 years ago when there was a hurricane coming through here in Raleigh when NC State played Notre Dame in a monsoon.
That's all I'm saying. Like, don't say you thoroughly understand when you just got caught with your pants down. Moving on. The vote by the Big Ten Council of Presidents and Chancellors was overwhelmingly in support of postponing fall sports and will not be revisited.
Was it?
There's been a lot of confusion as to whether a vote actually happened. We've already talked about that. So, you're a liar, maybe? The decision was thorough and deliberative and based on sound feedback, guidance, and advice from medical experts.
So I don't understand one thing though, Jared. So if there really was a vote, there really was, and you are trying to be as understanding as possible, why don't you release what the voting was, let alone who voted for yes or no, but what was it ultimately? Because there was mixed things that we saw. It was like, it was a 11-2 or whatever the case may be. nothing officially came out with that.
No, and you're not going to see that. You're not going to see a vote count, let alone who voted for what. I mean, we can't even agree if a vote actually happened at this point. So even if someone says, "Oh, by the way, it was 7-6," and these, because even if a president or, well, we all know the athletic directors weren't involved. But even if a president comes out and says, "Oh, I voted for fall football," they're all gonna say that because none of them want to have to talk to their. No one wants to answer questions from their boosters and their top donators asking questions. So they're all gonna lie, just for the record. Despite the decision to postpone fall sports, cancel, we continue our work to find a path forward that creates a healthy and safe environment for all Big Ten student athletes to compete in the sports they love in a manner that helps to prevent the spread of COVID-19 and protects both student athletes and surrounding communities. That's great. Here's the thing. You aren't putting a path forward. You close the path. You close the path. That's it. You could have postponed, and because since this has happened, one, they'll cite this heart study, which has been widely criticized since it sort of got put up on a pedestal by the Big Ten and the Pac-12. That heart study, there's a lot wrong with it. But then they'll say, well, it's an unknown. That basically, the COVID-19 can affect your heart in a long-term manner. But all studies to this point suggest that, yes, that's possible, but it's not any more likely to happen than with a flu in this specific case.
Mm-hmm. And the other thing too, I mean, I don't want to be that guy and be like, well, it's just one person or just a handful of people. But college football in general, is a dangerous sport.
Yeah,
I mean, they could just completely change your life. I mean, we've seen it.
Kyle,
we've seen it.
Ryan Shazier.
Yes, Ryan Shazier, or even his name's escaping me, over in Rutgers not too long ago too.
Yeah.
It happens all the time. And you know what? The players understand the risk and they're wanting to continue to play. It's the same thing here. Players have the option to opt out if they were given the option, or continue to play with the risks, understanding it, making an adult decision to play. But they're not given that option.
And as far as, the student and, they talk about the surrounding communities, I'm all for canceling fans in the stadium, or at least in like a completely diminished fashion. And I'm all for not doing tailgating. It's all very reasonable to me.
Or even do like what Ohio high school is doing right now, where it's like nobody in the fans except for just family members.
Yeah.
I know here in North Carolina, high school sports, 0 fans. There's no adult, no parents, no anybody in the stands.
By the way, Austin, I see your question. We have that a little bit further down on the show notes. We'll get there. I'm going to skip forward on this as he talks about all of the deaths we've seen in the country so far. We're all well aware of that. Again, this is him attempting to misrepresent people pushing back as people not caring about the virus. That's not what's happening. We're talking about wanting some transparency. So that's a complete straw man to tell us we know how dangerous COVID is. No one, well, some people are saying otherwise, but no one here is saying otherwise. That's not the point. So that's a complete straw man. I'm skipping over all of that. We understand the disappointment and questions surrounding the timing of our decision to postpone, cancel, fall sports. See, here's the thing. Once again, you don't. You keep saying that we understand the questions and we understand the disappointment. No, you don't, because you haven't talked to anyone. You don't understand. And I don't want you to understand the questions. I want you to answer the questions. Talk to people. Let us know. That's not, don't understand. Yeah. I understand the question. That's like someone saying, I understand. That's like a twist on the no apology. I'm sorry if that offended you. I would like to say that I'm sorry. That's not an apology. In the same way that you understanding questions does not answer questions.
And not just answering the question like how he has in the past couple of appearances that he has, but actually addressing and actually answering the question itself, not just saying things that's not even related to it.
Pretty much. Yeah. You bring up he evades his own questions. You know what I mean? In the same way he's avoiding, I acknowledge your question. Okay, answer it. No, I don't think I'm going to answer your question. Sorry. I'm Kevin Warren. By the way, you can check the show notes. I have the master link. You can go to the master link. You can go to the merch store and you can buy yourself a Fire Kevin Warren t-shirt. And if enough of you ask me to, I will also pose a Fuck Kevin Warren t-shirt. If you guys want that, I'll make it and I'll post it. Anyway. All right, Kyle, I want to keep going through this, but we're running short on time and we really need to quit doing 90-minute episodes. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and skip the rest of the letter for now. There is, and this comes to us from Nevada Buck on the, instead of 90-minute episodes, Friday episodes. Austin, I appreciate you. I'm just going to leave it at that. So this is according to, and I don't want to read this verbatim, and I'm only going to give you a little bit of it because this is behind the Buckeye Scoop paywall, and I'm not trying to piss off the bosses. But this comes to us from Nevada Buck, who is an insider on the Buckeye Scoop message board. Basically, the Big Ten has been in communication with Fox. They're talking about, and this sort of relates to some of the things Kyle and I were speaking of before, creating a pseudo bubble for college football to return it in January. They'll start essentially what we would refer to as the quote unquote fall camp around Thanksgiving. Most of these campuses are devoid of students from December, or from basically Thanksgiving and then all the way through December. There's no classes there. So it's going to be a little bit easier to isolate the student athletes. And so they're going to start their camp then, and then they're going to start football on January 1st. They're going to play in dome sites. Right now, they're limiting this to Indy, Detroit, and Minneapolis. Kyle and I spoke, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, about potentially playing in St. Louis as well. I have no idea what the condition of that dome is right now. The Rams don't play there anymore. Is it in complete disarray? I have no idea. But it does not seem to be, at least according to Nevada Buck, what is happening. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's all I'm going to share from that. Again, I don't want to leak all of the paywall content, but that's essentially what's being said. Kyle, what do you suppose the likelihood is of this actually happening?
None. Zero.
What if I tell you that the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC all cancel fall football and adopt a same and or very similar time frame?
I would probably up that to probably about 33%.
I think if all of the conferences, if all of the Power 5 conferences get on board with something like this, then I would say there's a high potential. I would say fairly likely that this happens.
Because what makes other sports...
But that's a big if. That's a big if.
Here's the thing that's different between what we see in the NHL, NBA, even MLS when they did their
bubble.
Their bubble in Florida. How many players are in each of those teams?
Yeah, I know it.
It's compared to 80, or how many is allowed to bring? Like 60-ish? I think. I forget the exact number of what each team can bring over when they travel to their travel. How many players can they bring on? Let's just say it's 60. 60 times
it's more
however
than
many
that
players
in college football,
each one. Well, yeah, that's just players, not just coaches and anybody else who goes.
The number is much higher than 60, but we don't need to get caught up in that now.
It's so large. Like, there's no way you can keep a bubble-like environment like you see in the NBA and NHL. There's absolutely no way you can. And you're going to try to do that Indianapolis isn't a huge city compared to like Detroit or New York or LA or whatever, but I just don't see them being able to accommodate. I don't see them being able to accommodate that many players, coaches, staff coming in every weekend.
It'll be a pseudo bubble. I think each Big Ten team will essentially create their own bubble at home and then do a travel bubble and then go to a hotel bubble. And I get that that's not a perfect bubble, which is why I called it a pseudo bubble.
Because if you're going to like Indianapolis, though, even when you have the Big Ten, you have just two teams. Like, okay, that's fine. But if they're talking about maybe having 2 games in one day, or even having 3 or 4 games in a 2-game span, there's no way they're going to be able to keep up with hotels and all that for that many players, coaches, staff to be able to do. I just don't see it.
They might be. I don't know. I don't want to say that I know because I don't know. But for one, you can day trip to Detroit or Indianapolis from Columbus. That's not completely out of the realms of possibilities. And also,
you can't do that with Penn State or anyone said it's going to take a lot longer to travel, though.
Oh, fair enough. But I think that the issue is normally, like you talked about the Big Ten championship game, how many fans are also there, Kyle? There's enough hotel accommodations to also deal with all the fans.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's functionally plausible. I don't know if it's because of all these stuff outside of just the functionality of it. I don't know how possible it is, but I think it's functionally possible. That mm-hmm. part of it doesn't bother me so much. I just think that this January season is completely pointless nonsense unless all 5 of the Power 5 conferences are doing it.
Yeah, and that's why I said 0% unless you get other conferences on board.
Okay, but so let's do a scenario in which this calendar does happen, but it's only the Big Ten and the Pac-12, and like the MAC will probably be doing it as well. But as far as Power 5, it's only the Big Ten and the Pac-12 doing this calendar year. Let's say that actually happens. Who cares? Is Justin Fields going to play in this season? No one who has any hopes of getting drafted is going to play this. Because is the NFL going to move back the draft and the combine for just the Big Ten and the Pac-12? No. Would they if all 5 power conferences adopted this calendar? I think that the NFL probably would do that. The NFL has a free farm league in college football. And they should and will do everything in their power to preserve the fact that they get fully formed stars out of college football.
Mm-hmm.
Well-coached, well-conditioned, well-publicized stars out of college football. The NFL, this is one of the NFL's biggest assets that it has over basically all of the other sports, is college basketball. The college basketball has dwindled over the years as far as being able to produce stars because of the one and dones, and before that because of the direct from high schools. So the NBA has it a little bit, but the NHL, MLB, any of the other major sports you can think of, none of them are being delivered stars straight out of college.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
College
absolutely.
football,
you
absolutely
have to get everybody involved.
Yes, the NFL, one of their biggest assets is college football, and they'll protect it. If college football says, "Hey, we need a favor for this year because of all of these circumstances," the NFL will budge on it. But I don't know if they budge just for the Pac-12 and the Big Ten.
Yeah, agreed.
In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and say that they won't. But I think that they would for all 5 Power 5s.
All right, let's move on. We got to move a little bit quickly here. So talk about a little bit here about Attorney Tom Mars.
Yeah.
He files an FOI Act request against the Big Ten schools. So essentially what he's asking for is just to get all records, public records, regarding to any kind of communication. It's kind of funny in there too. He mentions about even in hard drives or floppy disks. I got a little chuckle with floppy disks there, but
yeah.
Either way, just all kinds.
He's a lawyer. You have to cover all the bases.
Yes, all communications of any kind between essentially the 1st of August through when the decision was made to cancel the season. Between presidents and Big Ten Commissioner Kevin Warren, presidents and any employee or representative of the Big Ten Conference, just really anything regarding Kevin Warren and anybody within Big Ten Conference itself too.
Yeah, and just for anyone who doesn't know, an FOI is the Freedom of Information Act, and essentially all of these communications are public record because these universities are public universities and receive tax.
Minus one.
I was getting there, but yes, Northwestern does not apply to this, as they are a private university. But everyone else receive tax dollars and therefore are public institutions, and therefore all of their communications are public record.
Yep.
So
pretty much they have a set date of Monday, August 24th at noon to respond. Now, what can they do if they don't meet that? I don't know. We'll wait and see. But they have a official filing of this FOI to the Big Ten.
Yeah, it's so funny. Normally when an FOI is filed against your school, and if you're listening to this, I'm just going to assume that is Ohio State. Normally when a FOI is filed against your school, that's normally really, really bad. But when everyone saw this from Attorney Tom Mars, everyone just sort of cheered. Hey, maybe we'll actually get some transparency. We have to sue 13... this isn't the lawsuit, but you get what I'm saying. You have to file FOI request against 13 other schools, 13 total schools, in order to get transparency. This is where we're at right now. Tom Mars, by the way, for anyone not familiar, is the same attorney hired by Justin Fields' parents in order to get him immediately eligible. Allegedly, I'm going to emphasize that this may have been... I don't know how to say this, but this may have happened on behalf of the Fields family again, potentially, but that's rumor, so I don't know that that's true.
Yep.
I think
I'm not going to put any hopes that they're going to say anything, but
well, they have to. They legally have to.
Well, here's the question of: how much are they going to, even though they say they want all public record, how much is actually going to, or if any?
It just depends upon how much of the communication was written versus...
That's true too.
Because, like, if these all happened over Zoom doesn't keep these recordings. So you can't just, like, file a request with Zoom to get a copy of the meeting. Those don't exist.
Yep.
And so Kyle and I are IT people. And I know I've been through my fair share of audits, and there's a lot of information that when, you know, an auditor requests it, you are required to give it to them. And I've been on the butt end of stuff like this before. That being said, I'm not experienced in the public education field. Neither is Kyle. I've done stuff in medical. I've done stuff for publicly traded companies. Kyle and I both have a pretty extensive experience in the financial industry. I know what is in those industries, what you have to provide, what you have to record, what you have to keep. And what I can tell you is that nothing that I am familiar with requires, and in some cases forbids, the recording of voice, or in this case, voice and video communication.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
Agreed.
those calls, which is where all of the juicy bits happened in a face-to-face, or rather face-to-webcam communications, that's where all the juicy bits happened. So I don't have a ton of hope for this. Kyle, I have one question to ask you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think ACC, SEC, Big 12, do you think they play in that October, November, December schedule that they're currently aiming for? For the record, neither of us know anything for a fact.
It's tough because, like, if you said just SEC, maybe, but
well, you can answer them individually.
So, I mean, we've seen things over the past week of, like, with universities, students coming back in, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, there's
what's the Discord thing
in these universities? There's clusters of positive cases. Like, I've seen it here in the Triangle area where NC State and UNC have big problems going on. But then I saw this morning
they've switched to online classes, have they not?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
As has Notre Dame, as has Michigan State.
But then I saw this morning that UNC is like, oh, we're going to have football practice Monday morning then. And just like, there's just, without trying to get too much into it, because you're going to have me go on a tangent regarding to other things I don't want to discuss right now. But I think they're going to do everything they can to make a season happen, whether it's going to have them try to do essentially a bubble or whatever other means, though.
How are you going to bubble student athletes when classes are going on?
Yeah.
I think the ACC is toast. I saw a third or a quarter. I saw. I don't have the actual numbers in front of me. Of the schools have given up on in-person classes and are going remote.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You're really going to justify a football season at that point? Again, this is me saying I'm not saying Kevin Warren was wrong in canceling football. It's the how about it that I think eventually, if the ACC says no football, we're going to jump on this January train with the Pac-12, the Big Ten, everyone else. If the ACC falls, I think that the Big 12 and the SEC will follow suit.
And I think if just one of them, the ACC or the Big 12, they're going to follow suit.
I don't think anyone cares what the Big 12 does.
Well, I think in their minds, they want the Big 12. That way, you have
a majority.
Yes,
I get that, and you might be right. And I was just primarily just taking a shot at the Big 12. Yeah, no, I'm with you. So that we've discussed what do we think happens, and I think that I think that they adopt some sort of 2021 model, whether it be a January or a March or whatever the case might be. I think that they will also delay. Now, here's my next question: do you want them to?
No.
We disagree. I do want them to. How? If everyone plays in January, we can still have a legitimate national champion.
Okay, yeah. Them playing in all. You mean all of them playing in January?
Well, I guess I was asking: do you want the ACC, the SEC, the Big 12 to also not play this calendar year? I think is essentially what I'm asking.
I would like everybody to play at the same time.
Okay. But the Big Ten's not playing. Like, everyone can let their boat conspiracy theories go. Your yacht-based conspiracy theories are over now.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State is not playing in this calendar year, except that they did in January, but you know what I mean. It's not happening.
No.
Ohio State will not play until January at the earliest. So you can all let that go. If you're still holding on to that, let that go. I want everyone to play at the same time. And like I said, with the ACC already canceling classes on in-person classes, with the ACC already canceling in-person classes, like I said, with I want to say like a third of their universities, counting Notre Dame, who's sort of counts at this point. I don't know how you justify football.
No.
And if you justify football, I don't know how you justify continuing to call them amateur athletes.
Yep.
Which, by the way, if you haven't listened to last week's episode, please do break the wheel. Semi-pro college football, let's make this happen. Let's stop lying to ourselves. Let's form a better college football. Listen to last week's episode.
Mm-hmm. All right, super quick here, Jared.
Ask Lucas.
Yep. Couple of questions here. Duncan from the Discord asks us, pick one. You can have your system as spelled out in the last episode, or we can collectively wake up in a cold sweat. It's February in 2020 is actually pretty cool.
It has to be the latter. Because if I choose the former, as much as I want that model to exist, I'd also be sacrificing the lives of, hundreds of thousands of people. So that would just make me an asshole. I can't just be like, I like this college football model. Yeah, let those 200,000 Americans die, or whatever the horrible number is up to at this point.
Yeah. All right. Suncard 19 asks us, when you watch football, what do you watch?
I typically do watch the line, the offensive line, the defensive line. There's no point in watching the quarterback. I think that's what most people do. But there's all the meat's happening up front. If you want to know if they're going to run the ball, the offensive line will tell you.
Yes.
If you want to know where they're going to run the ball, the offensive line will tell you.
Mm-hmm. Most of the time.
I mean, there are draw plays and such that are designed to lie to you, but for the most part.
Or even the one where I saw Urban Meyer posted this morning, the jump pass too.
Yep.
All right, last question from Jared the Buckeye on Twitter, using the hashtag AskSlewcast. In December 2021, so moving ahead a year plus now, after the Big Ten championship game is played and Ohio State is on the podium, if Warren is still there, when he's handing over the trophy to Coach Day, will the boos be louder than during any point of the actual game? Hashtag fire Kevin Warren. I want every player or Coach Day to do essentially like, what's his name, that Michigan State did to Archie Griffin.
Oh.
Just go up, not even eye contact, just take the trophy and just take a couple of steps forward. No eye contact. Just take the trophy and just be like, get out of my way.
I'm going to take an opportunity once again to tell everyone that there is a Fire Kevin Warren t-shirt in the Sloopcast store, and I will foot the bill to send like 80 of those. Although let me redesign it first so it actually says Sloopcast on it. I will foot the bill to send one to most of the players. I don't have that kind of money, you guys, but to like 40 of the players and like 10 of the coaches. And if they could just like take the shoulder pass offs and then wearing a shirt that says Fire Kevin Warren, that would be pretty great. And by the way, forget December 2021. If the January season happens and it's like March 2021, that would be the best opportunity to actually wear that shirt.
Yes, because I'm hoping by December 2021, he's not even there.
I got the TMC barbecue sponsor money. I do. Yes. And we love you for it. And we're once again getting an Apollo visit.
All right, that is all the questions we have here, so I think that is all for today's episode.
Yeah, that's it. Want to encourage everyone, check out... You're stepping all over me, Kyle. Everyone check out the master link. Through that master link, you can find links to all of our stuff, to our merch store, to our Patreon, to all the stuff. The merch store is pretty great. I've been adding a bunch of new stuff in there. I just basically make stuff that I would like. That's all of it. I want to show everyone something real quick. Apollo, buddy, you can't stand on me. This is my, I almost fell. This is my Columbus Pilots t-shirt. That's in the 7071 store, which is our non-Sloopcast branded material, just sort of an offshoot. It says 7071 on it, which is just the whatever, but it's just sort of non-football stuff. And you can also find a link to that in the master link. Twitter, you can find all those links in there as well. If you don't want to follow the links for Twitter, you can just follow me at Sloopcast. Kyle, what's your new Twitter handle?
I'm at Sloopcast Kyle.
There you go. There's only one way to spell Kyle, right?
Perhaps. Should be. Not like Jared.
No, there's 1,000 ways to spell Jared. And I once again want to thank the parents of at Jared the Buckeye for spelling their son's name correctly.
No, that's not right, Brawley.
Find me one person whose name is spelled like that and that they pronounce it Kyle.
That's Kale.
Well, Kale is K-A-L. Anyway, we're not getting into a spelling or a pronunciation Lord help us game. So yeah, go ahead and check out the master. Yes, go ahead and check out that. We're just getting alt Kyle spellings in the Discord.
Not even internet.
That one's child. Check out all that stuff. If you want to be in the Discord and listen to us live and join these group of rambunctious... No, see, now they're doing my name. These rambunctious hooligans, make sure to check out our Patreon page. You can also find that in the master link. Kyle, do you have anything in Kyle's Corner for today?
I do not. I'm getting ready to actually watch some sports once we're done here, Jared.
Oh, okay. Real quick, I have a question for you.
Yes.
All right. Who do you got, Braun Strowman or The Fiend?
I need some context. I have no idea.
Braun Strowman or The Fiend? SummerSlam happening tonight, baby.
I don't know. I got Bayern Munich. I got Bayern Munich right now. So.
No way The Fiend loses tonight. No way The Fiend loses tonight. No way. Anyway, we'll still see how that ends up. Check out the master link. Kyle's got nothing in the Kyle's Corner, and I think that's it. I know I just played them not too long ago, but I just saw on my Twitter feed that they're doing a live stream, a full band live stream I believe it's August the 29th, but you can check out their Twitter page to find out if that's completely accurate. And again, I just played them not too long ago, but I don't care. So I almost said once again. I hadn't said their name yet. This is the Cordial Sins. So I'm going to play the Cordial Sins again. Just played them a few weeks ago, but that's no big deal. And you can check out all their stuff and the name of the song down in the doobly-doo. And with all of that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is the Cordial Sins. Hey, YouTube. Let's see if I can actually get Apollo up here now that we're just talking to the YouTube folks. Come here, bud. Come on. Ups. Yeah, that's a buddy. Everyone, this is Apollo. This is the younger of my two puppies. Oh, and we have he was going full shoulders?
Yeah, see, we got a Leo here.
And a Leo.
We got a Leo.
And LG's down there, but she's asleep, so we're going to leave her alone. All right, puppy corner. Oh, puppy corner. That's right, we're doing the puppy corner. That was just for you, YouTube. That's a YouTube exclusive. All right, let's do this. You want me to do Mad Canadian this time, Kyle?
Sure.
I'd once again like to thank the Cordial Sins for ending today's episode, and of course I want to thank our homie, the Mad Canadian, for sponsoring today's episode, as he's been doing for almost a year now, so that's pretty great. I'm holding right here the Brits blend. Amazing Southwest blend. You know what I like to do, Kyle? I like to buy the cheap salsa, just like the half-gallon thing of Kroger cheap salsa, and then just respice it. And this isn't the only thing I respice it with, but this is maybe the heaviest lifter of the things I respice it with. I'll also probably add some fresh cilantro, because I love cilantro. So I'll probably do some fresh cilantro, an abundance of garlic, because I love garlic. And then this gal right here, this is the Brits blend. Amazing Southwest blend. Salsa is my favorite thing to put it in. It's not my exclusive, though. Just put it on some chicken, because that's great. It's specifically, I don't know about specifically, but its main purpose in life, at least according to the Mad Canadian, is a chili blend. And we're coming into chili weather, so make sure to hit up some Brits blend for your chili this year. And by the way, can I say this? I'm gonna put some of you up to the fire on this one. My biggest issue with most people's chili is that they're too afraid to spice it. I'm talking to you white people specifically, of which I am one. But I'm an Italian, and we know how to cook. We're the good cooking white people. Season your food more. Don't put some Brits blend in there. Put a lot of Brits blend in it. Don't put some cilantro in there. If you think, I don't like spicy foods. Mad Canadian says, big shout out to everyone who used the code this week. Huge thank yous. So that's a message straight from the Mad Canadian to you guys. Use more spice. And the Brits blend is not very spicy, but if you use a lot of it, it can get spicy. But spice tolerance in food is just a thing. Is just a thing you get used to.
Apollo wants it.
Apollo does want it. It's spicy food is just a thing you can build a tolerance to. It's like running or like weightlifting, or it's just the more you do it, the more of it you can do. You can build a tolerance to spicy food. So I'm just saying, increase the flavor in your food a bit. That's all I'm saying. And the Brits blend and your chili and your salsa is a great gateway to doing that. You can buy that blend, a bunch of other blends, some exclusive new blends coming out here in a few weeks. And all of that and more can be found at themadcanadianbbq.com. Use promo code SloopCast10 to get 10% off your entire order. You can find that link and that promo code down there in the master link. The Mad Canadian Barbecue Company. He's got your butts covered.